I think this film, this iteration of Superman, is going to be a lot of people's favorites right now just because of the recency of it. I do not think that this version of Superman will stand the test of time like other versions have, other than
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of A Lost Plot, the podcast by storytellers for storytellers so that we can tell better stories ourselves. As always, I'm your host, Maverick, and today we have back with us our two favorite co-hosts, Andrew and Avalon, to review the latest release in the DC universe. That's right, we are reviewing Superman, the James Gunn edition, 2025 release that just came out this past weekend. It was written by, or the screenplay was written by James Gunn anyways, and it was directed by James Gunn as well. So, looking at those initial thoughts, Andrew, what is your impression and rating of Superman?
this is a very busy movie, a lot of different characters. My biggest takeaway from this movie is that it was a fun Superman movie, but is James Gunn been going to be able to make a Batman movie is the real question.
I mean, it's an interesting start. I'll say that. For the whole new DC universe, I like some things this movie did, but there are things I also didn't like. So it was a mixed bag for me. Other than that, I'll just say this movie is the best version of the Green Lantern we've gotten so far in live action. So
Okay, there you go. Yeah, I mean, there was some really interesting things that they did for a DC film. I thought that the film did very well at combining the epicness you often got with a lot of these DC films, the grand sweeping landscapes and the superheroes with epic battles. It combined that very well with the James Gunn feel that you got a lot with Guardians of the Galaxy. You know, it has humor, but it has a lot of color. It has a lot of variety and action going on. That being said, I felt like the storyline itself had the feel of a storyline made by a 6-year-old, where they would tell you what was going to happen in the story they're telling you as it progresses, so you're not really surprised, or you know exactly what's going on in any given situation. And for that reason, it felt pretty flat on its face for me overall. My overall rating out of the 9-point system that we use to review films here was a 4.2. So that's what we got today. It wasn't my favorite, but definitely wasn't the worst thing we reviewed on here. And if you want to see more of that, you'll have to go to the archives. But
I forgot to give my rating as well. I don't know if Avalon had one too.
I had one. I didn't say it. Mine was 4.5.
Okay, mine was a 4.6.
Well, wow.
Wow. Okay, we
Not
are
like the
very
closest
close.
we've ever been.
Said us never on this podcast. Okay, well, let's get into it, I guess. But before we do, actually, we got to get into that summary. If you haven't watched the Superman film and you're thinking of it, there will be spoilers here, so pause it, watch the film if you want to not get those spoilers. Otherwise, we're going to carry on. Avalon, for those who are not going to do that or need a brush up, what is Superman about?
So Superman is, of course, about Superman. This takes place a few years after he starts his work as Superman in Metropolis. He already has a name and a reputation. He believes he's doing this because his parents sent him to Earth to protect humanity and do good for them. But over the course of this movie, that is thrown into question, and furthermore, Lex Luthor plots against him to take him down. And over the course of the movie, Superman has to wrestle with why is he actually doing this, and can he actually do good? More or less is the question. That's the basic gist of the movie. So,
Yeah, definitely. There you go. If you are curious about spoilers, they're gonna be in this, so you're gonna want to pause this and come back to this later. But we're gonna steamroll right ahead. Let's start with that opening scene, right? You have that scene. Everyone saw this in the commercial too, right? You see Superman just laying in the snow being like, crap, I'm covered in blood and dirt. and I need my dog's help. What were you guys' thought on that introduction to a Superman that's already present and integrated into the universe, right? He's not got that origin backstory that's slowly developed. We're jumping right into the action. Avalon, go ahead.
I mean, to be perfectly honest, the one thing about this beginning opener that I appreciated was seeing Superman already beaten. Like, that's not a usual starting point for a movie. Like, the main hero is beaten and bloody and, like, wounded in a sense. Other than that, I really didn't like how they had all that text thread just, like, summarizing everything that took place over the last, whatever, like, 3 years, 3 decades, and everything else. It was really the opposite of show don't tell. Like, they were literally telling you what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, like, didn't... It just kind of drew me out of the movie. It kind of made me not... Like, I didn't appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I almost preferred, like, would have preferred it if they just cut that writing out and just shown Superman falling into the ice. And then we get everything else, like, in flashbacks or in a I mean, even they did a montage or something, I don't know, like, shown things in a much... Like, you could have given all that information easily through other means. That would have been simpler and more story effective. So...
Right. Well, and we've talked about this before in the past with other films, Q, the new Mission Impossible, and other such films where they have this scrolling montage of everything that's happened or they want you to know that's happened. The Incredible Hulk that we just reviewed from the archive life, going back to 2008, had the same thing, right? And this is an element to try to catch you up to speed. I think that they felt okay with doing this because Superman is already so much in the social consciousness, right? There have already been multiple films about this character. People know who he is. They kind of expect the whole thing with Clark Kent and his backstory. So there wasn't this idea that maybe they needed to build it up like they have previously. At the very least, it's a new way of presenting the superhero. So I didn't hate the idea. I'm not generally a fan of those openers, right? But it's not a killer for me. Andrew, what are your thoughts?
Star Wars did it better. I going into this film, I saw a decent amount of interviews with James Gunn and some of the other actors. James Gunn, from my understanding, went into this movie similar to what you said, and his take was, we don't need another Superman origin story. We're just going to jump right into it. I think he still in some way felt a need for the Superman origin story when he put that text in there. Rather than having that text shown throughout the course of the movie or the film. I don't really have any major qualms with the opener. It just, like, it felt like a Marvel movie opener with the fight scene right at the beginning. And nothing really, like, I didn't feel particularly sucked into the movie. Other than I paid money to come see this movie, so I'm sitting through it.
Okay, come on.
Like it wasn't necessarily bad. It was just like that scene in and of itself isn't what kept me watching that movie, if that makes sense.
Sure, and I don't think that the robots really help either at the start. I felt like the opening part where they introduce his castle, if you will. I don't know what his base is called, but
Fortress of Solitude.
Fortress of Solitude. There you go. Obviously, I'm not the fan that knows all of the verbiage, but that's why you guys are here. But like you have that Fortress of Solitude, and then you have all the bots there that are introducing him with all of this stuff going on, right? And you have, this is his parents, and this is where he came from, and they're giving some verbiage in French or who knows what it is, where they're talking about how they sent him here, and the robots are literally explaining every detail of the film from the start. That was the big thing for me. That was the big oh no when this film opened, was the robots start telling you, oh, this is the Fortress of Solitude. Oh, those are your parents. We are playing this because we know it makes you feel better. And all of those things coming within the first 3 minutes of the film made me go, crap, there is going to be so much telling in this film. And guess what? There was. Wow. Cue that part way later in the film when they go, oh no, there's people across that bridge. It's like, wow, really? You didn't think that there would be people across the bridge that are maybe going to get killed? You had to actually spell it out? Like, there was so much of it, and they started off from the beginning of this film with that, and that was just such a bad sign. So other than that, I didn't hate it, but that's what you got. Let's talk about Superman. Superman is the epitome of a superhero, really, in regards to everyone's social consciousness of what a superhero is. Probably one of the first things you think of, unless you're a Marvel nerd, you probably think of, like, Spider-Man. But what is your thoughts on the development of Superman, Andrew, in this iteration of him?
With the character of Superman, I think one of the biggest struggles, and we've talked about this when it comes to Captain America, is giving him a challenge, if you will. Giving him something that actually increases the stakes for both him and the audience. I think this movie does that well enough. I think the problem for me becomes, does Superman actually change as a character in this film? And I don't know that he really does. He, like, has all of these character defining moments, but at the end of the day, he's still pretty much the same as he was to begin with. And so I think they gave him difficulties and struggles, right? He gets put into prison with kryptonite. His parents, the people that he had held this message for his entire life and held it up in such high regard and literally based his life around, has become is pretty much a lie. So there's definitely difficulty there. I just don't know that he really changes by the end.
Yeah, I thought that initially. I think, and we'll get to this more near the end, I disagree, but I think for the most part, it's very hard to take a character like this, right? And this is one of my beefs with Captain America. Cue all of those reviews that we did. But Captain America is epitomized as, like, the moralistic, great superhero that you have coming out of nowhere and always doing the right thing, right? It's very hard to have a character arc from someone who starts from the peak and have them grow any more from there. That being said, I think they did two things very well with Superman in this. One was the B plot with Lois Lane. There's definitely conflict between him and his romantic interest, right? They're not on the same page with everything. She has insecurities that conflict with his insecurities, and it shows him as someone who needs to overcome those and not be so concerned about his social image in this case, right? In regards to the bigger plot of what we're dealing with in this film, we're talking about the issue of where upbringing matters in who you are as a person, right? And the intent of his parents for sending him to Earth. Now, you can argue about how compelling that is, but he definitely has a starting point of issues he has to struggle with, and those go beyond his physical ability to completely obliterate everyone around him. So I thought that they had elements of good things going for them. I thought it didn't terminate well. So, Alan, what are your thoughts on Superman?
I mean, the whole phrase comic book movie comes from somewhere, and the idea of a comic book movie is that very few of the characters really change over the course of a movie. Like, it really, like, there's very little meaning in the story itself. Now, this has been around for a while, and this did change with some superhero movies. This one doesn't fall exactly into that trope of. So, like, there is, I think, a little bit of change in Superman with the course of the movie, but it's so subtle, you almost have to be looking for it. Because he is almost the same character at the end as he is at the beginning. So, as you said, it's like the whole, like, realization of his upbringing. That's part of it, but
Sure. No, that totally makes sense. I get what you're coming from that.
I mean, the only weakness I'd say to his character, like, as far as the character flaw goes, is maybe his naivete. Where it's like he thinks he can do whatever he needs to do what's right without, like, and then in the end he kind of still holds that, but, I mean, you can take that as you will. If is that a flaw or not, but that's the only flaw I could really think of in terms of.
Sure, and you could tie that into his arrogance in regarding, say, boundaries with countries, right? Where he doesn't respect those at all, and he says, "Oh, I'm basically the leader of whatever I want to do. I don't care what the U.S. says. I don't care what Bravia says. I don't care what Jaranpur or whatever it was called says." You know, he's going to do what he wants to do no matter what. And there is some sort of arrogance that comes with that when you're acting in that way, and that's one of the pushbacks he gets with Lois Lane. So I see what you're saying there. Andrew, do you want to push back?
Not really. I think you have the instance with what is it, Jarhanpur, and I mean it's just Israel and Hamas at this point. But it's literally what the best comparison is to this. But the movie starts out with it as he did something wrong by interfering here, and in the interview with Lois Lane, it's kind of fleshed out that he didn't really stop a war. He just bullied one of the leaders into submission.
Yeah.
But by the end of the movie, he did the right thing because that guy was a bad guy. So Superman doesn't learn anything from this other than keep bullying leaders if your gut tells you to.
Sure. Yeah, and that's yeah, okay. You are fine. We'll just jump the gun. We'll talk about the end of the story. Oh my gosh. I mean, you're not wrong, and that's probably the bigger issue, right, with the film is that when you're talking about character arcs, it's like, how does he fundamentally change as a person? And the whole story has this arc that basically validates who he was at the beginning and says, no, you don't need to change at all. Now,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that he didn't come to realizations in the middle of it, which is why I wanted to give it some points in regards to, did he develop as a character? Does he have interesting things going on with him? Yeah, for sure he does. But at the same time, it's not like there is you can't look at Superman at the beginning and Superman at the end and say they are different people, because they're not. They're exactly the same. And that was kind of the intent, but I think it's one of the reasons that the message falls sort of flat, right? Because the message they're trying to convey is this idea of your own actions and your own decisions make you who you are, right? And that's what you get with the I mean, I know it's jumping around a little bit, but to paint the picture, right? You have Superman at the beginning. He gets the message from his parents, and it's not complete. And then the message gets completed partway through, where you realize, oh my goodness, his parents had told him basically to procreate and master the entire universe and make Earth basically a place for him and his people, and not really treat the rest of humanity as dumb animals, more or less, right? And he takes this as a big shock, and all of humanity takes this as a, what on earth, why would you do this, Superman? You're a terrible person. You're not a good person anymore. And he has to decide, what am I supposed to do with this? Am I a real superhero? Do I really save humanity, or do I need to respond in a different way? Do I need to actually do what my parents expected of me? And he never really moves toward that, so there is, like, how much of that is really legitimate, questionable, but there's a lot of inflection on how his parents thought he should do and what should he actually do. At the end of the day, he decides, especially after a conversation with his foster parents, the Kents, that he really is defined by the actions he takes regardless of what other people expect of him, right? That's the message of the movie. So the message of the movie rises and falls and ends in the same place it started at. So there's not much. It's an interesting story, right? That idea, the idea that what you do makes you who you are, not what other people expect of you, is a good message to have. The problem is the vehicle they chose kind of leaves you in the same spot you started the movie with, and almost makes you feel like there wasn't an arc, even though there kind of was. Does that make sense? Do you
Yeah.
disagree?
I mean, I think the other thing here too is his biological parents tell him to reign over the earth and to like institute his own kingdom, if you will. He kind of does that in a way. It's just better than being a tyrannical overlord for most people. He's still interfering with global conflicts and world governments and putting them down as he sees fit. So, is he really doing the opposite of what his parents wanted, or is he just fulfilling their call to him and his own interpretation?
Well, he's not having babies, so, yeah, he kind of failed.
Well,
But,
not yet.
They said harem like 10 times. True.
Oh, yeah, true.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a good point. I was stepping into the movie's world and assuming that it's correct, right? But technically you are right that he's still a dictator in his own way and doing whatever the heck he wants, and lives in a secret castle in the middle of the ice where no one else can find him except for his stunt double, so that's cool. But anyways, more to say on Superman, or we're going to move on.
I don't have
Avalon?
much else to say.
Not really on Superman himself.
Cool.
I mean, we discussed it, so.
Then let's go to the villains, because I really think we want to talk about Lex Luthor. So go ahead, Andrew. I see that smile on your face. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think he was easily, probably, in my opinion, the best actor in this film. I think he did pretty well as Lex Luthor. He was not as big as as imposing as I normally envision Lex Luthor. I do prefer him to, what was it, Jesse
You mean like
Eisenberg's?
physically big?
Yeah, I like whenever I think
You
of
want
Lex
buff
Luthor.
bad guys.
No, it's just he's typically portrayed as being a bigger guy, and he's. I will say he's not as small as I think Jesse Eisenberg was the actor who played him. I don't know if I'm saying his last name right in Batman versus Superman. So that was better. I don't know if we're going through the whole character. These are just my initial thoughts on his character.
No, so like right, we're talking about the villain, the guy who's the opposition to the main character. He provides the main conflict in the film. Did he do that well? Was he a good villain? Was he not? Make your case, Mr. Debater.
See, I think this question still ties back to Superman, though, because the question of is he a good villain or problem for Superman then builds into Superman's own arc. And does Superman feel a lot of weight or rising tensions as a result of this character's existence? Well, in this case, it is a character. Sometimes it's the world he's in, or other entities that are creating some sort of antagonist. I think in a vacuum, Lex Luthor makes a good villain. I don't know that he necessarily poses that big of a threat to Superman. The biggest threat to Superman in this movie was some random dude who could morph his hand into kryptonite.
True. But that, I mean, to play the devil's advocate, though, this is the thing with villains that are not powerful, right? We're not talking about a superhero here. We're talking about a man of extreme intellect. And that's the whole idea of Lex Luthor, is that this is a guy who, sure, he doesn't have the powers of Superman, but he has the intellect to counter-navigate against him and beat him in whatever way he can, right? And he's got all the technology, he's got all the funding, he has all of the tools in that he can will to destroy this man. And this character you were talking about, the morphing figure, which I can't even remember the name of, but he's also in his pocket, right? He is a minion of Lex Luthor until he's not. But I consider those characters, right, as extensions of a character like this, right? Because that is part of the game they are playing. So I didn't think that was necessarily a ding against Lex Luthor, unless you disagree.
No. I'm not saying it's a ding against him. I'm saying in terms of the tensions and the stakes he provides for the protagonist. And so, like, with the character of, I don't know why I'm forgetting the Superman clone's name right now.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, whatever. The Superman...
Ultraman, yeah.
Ultraman. Ultraman provides a counter at the beginning of the film, but towards the end, it just, like, they reveal who it is, and then he gets beat to a pulp, and that's it. And he doesn't serve that much...
Lex Luthor got to play his video game first, though.
True.
A1.
A1. Forward smash.
Yeah.
No, I was thinking that during that scene in the movie. It was just so absurd.
Yeah, it's literally Lex Luthor just telling everyone to press the buttons on their Wii remote.
Yes.
I was so confused during that scene, by the way. Like, what are those guys doing? Like, are they controlling the robots? Are they controlling the Ultraman? What was the point? It was so weird seeing 6 guys at the side.
Yeah, and that was... Okay, so that's another, just very briefly, an issue with this film, is that the cohesiveness of it is kind of very unsure in certain areas. And it would just pop up every once in a while when you'd go, hold on, this doesn't really exactly make any sense. And in regards to that specifically, they said, oh, the drones are controlling him. How are the drones controlling a human being? Sure, he's an idiot, but, like, what are they doing? They're sitting there with their cameras watching them fight. How is A1 telling a person to do anything? I didn't understand how that made any sense. And there's more of those, to be fair, but, like, that was the first example.
From my takeaway from that was the drones are meant to provide a visual for Lex Luthor to see what's going on. He verbally gives commands. The A1, F1, whatever, is just a movement set that he has developed in this algorithm and trained Ultraman to copy. And so it's just a moveset he's taught him.
You think of it like conditioning, right? For the Winter Soldier type thing where he has certain skills built into him that he can be commanded to do.
Yeah, he just says,
and he has like an earpiece in and he knows what to do.
Well, he has the speaker on his chest. He did have the speaker on his,
yeah.
He just tells him, all right, final smash, do it now.
I don't know why you'd put a speaker on someone's chest unless you just wanted to have a monologue in there, but...
I think the other question then becomes, why didn't Superman hear him talking from the speaker in the first fight?
You're right. 1A. I don't know.
He is in the giant shell.
I guess.
That's true. He looked like Mysterio at the beginning, so he couldn't tell who he was. Yeah, Avalon, what are your thoughts on Lex?
I mean, I actually disagree a little bit with Andrew on this, only because I don't think a villain needs to be all-powerful, have the same, like, strength as the hero does. They just have to be allowed smart and, like, hurt the hero consistently. And I think Lex Luthor does that throughout the course of this movie, where it's like he's, he's planning things out. He, like, I'm going to distract Superman with this over here, and he sends a distraction, and it works, so he can get something else done on the side. Like, for the most part, at least the first half of the movie, maybe 2/3, Lex Luthor is consistently manipulating Superman into positions where he wants him to be, and Superman falls for it every single time.
Right.
So I think on a villain sense, that's perfect. Like, that's what you want from a villain, to be, like, consistently, like, tricking your heroes and, like, manipulating them, and always having the upper hand. The only time, like, Lex Luthor starts to kind of fall apart in my eyes is once he's captured Superman in that vault, and he starts questioning him, and he has that whole gun thing, and it's, like, threatening that guy. That seemed a little... I mean, I know he was threatening the civilian, but just, like, playing Russian roulette with the guy was the first step, point in the movie. I was like, okay, why are we doing this? That was the first point I started to question.
Yeah.
But, I mean, not that it did make some sense, but it wasn't like... It kind of came out of left field for me. I was like, okay, we're doing this now.
Right.
But... And
well, so
I think... And then after that, he does make some decisions, and I guess you could chalk it up to him being envious of Superman, where it's like, he is so devoted to destroying Superman, he's willing to throw everything else aside. So, I mean, but it does raise questions about his, like, the people working for him, the people in the room clearly question what he's doing right then and there. I don't know. There was, like...
Sure.
At that point, some of that started to fall apart for me. Especially when you have other people present.
Right. Well, and I don't question the minions as much, just because I assume at that point there's a lot of conflicting emotions within you as an individual where you go, well, my livelihood is dependent on this guy who, if I question him, I'm fired for sure. But, you know, that's a whole side I'm not really going to go into. Going to what you're saying, I kind of agree with where you're going with this, right? Is this idea that Lex Luthor as a tool effectively pushes Superman in a escalating the stakes type of way out of the frying pan into the fire, right? He is actually pushing him in progressively worse direction. I also agree with you, Andrew, in that Nicholas Hoult plays Lex Luthor well. I thought he was very good at his acting. I thought he played an excellent character. And I hate to go this way because I feel like it shouldn't be a deal breaker, but in this case, I think it is. I think the villains are one of the worst parts of this film, and I think that's the case because of the dialogue. And I think Lex Luthor's dialogue that he was handed is atrocious because he is literally monologuing his way through everything. He is explaining what's about to happen. He is chuckling with his twirling mustache-esque personality the entire time. He became stock as a character because he was constantly telling you what was about to happen, why he did what he did, etc., the entire time in a way that it was so excessive it takes you out of the movie. And so you go, okay, now we know what's going to happen next. Why? Oh, because the villain just told us what's going to happen next. Okay. Well, now I'm not surprised by it. Now I'm not expecting anything different. It's just happening. And so you're seeing it play out on screen, which is one of the main reasons why I said I thought this film could have been made by a 6-year-old, and when a 6-year-old's telling you the story, they just say, and then this happened, and then this happened. Well, guess what Lex Luthor was doing the entire time? And then this is going to happen, Superman, and then this is going to happen, Superman. It's like, okay, why are you telling him this? Sure, I get that you're arrogant AF, but like, that doesn't mean that you're also an idiot. And you're clearly not, because you created all of these clearly very intelligent pieces of technology. So I just really disliked the way that they portrayed this character, which is so interesting, right? Because I think that the dialogue in this film actually is very good at certain points. The conflict between Lois Lane and Superman, excellent. The humor pieces, excellent. That dialogue is on point. But then the constant explaining about what's going to happen with Lex Luthor and the robots and random side characters just saying, oh no, the bad guys are coming to kill us. Like, what are we doing? I just didn't understand. So, that's my beef. If you want to push back, feel free. I'm here for it.
Do you think he would have been better if he had hair?
I actually do like the iteration of Lex Luthor with the long hair, which is what, in like one single movie. It's I think it's so what, like not comic canon. I don't know though. I'm not a superhero comic nerd, so I don't care. And clearly the long flowing locks is what I'm going for, so go at it, Lex.
It's not your favorite Lex Luthor hairstyle, okay.
Yes. That being said, it's easier to look hot as a bald guy, in my opinion, but that's aside. Go ahead, Andrew.
I agree with you that the telling on the part of the villain is typically problematic. I think I was a little more forgiving. That's not to say that I think it's completely acceptable to the extent they went at it in this movie. I think it's a little more forgiving when you take into account the fact that Lex Luthor is meant to be one of the most arrogant pieces of crap on the planet, and so he is constantly going to be talking. So when I was watching the film, that was the way that I explained it to myself. Now, as it got to be more excessive, is where I started to go, okay, I'm not a fan. I think a little, if they had cut it like down to a quarter of that, it would have been better. And you could have still shown that this is a very arrogant character who's willing to talk about his plans to some people. But I think when you take it to the point of Lex Luthor literally telling pretty much every person he interacts with what his evil plan is, you're going, okay, well, this guy can't be a super genius because he's just a little kid who is bullying someone and wants to brag about it.
Yeah. Well, it's like, it was so clearly for the audience so many times. Like, it was tell. And you're in a pocket dimension. He says, this is a pocket dimension. This is a portal. This is how we got here. Ha ha ha. Aren't I such a great villain? I'm going to put you in this box now. And this guy, he has the power to change his form so that he is kryptonite. So go screw yourself. Ha ha. You know, like, what? Why are you telling us all of this? You could just literally show us something along the lines of this guy's hand transforms into kryptonite, which, newsflash, he does. So you didn't need to tell us that verbally. It just ground my gears like nobody's business, and I could not get over it. So, you know, really didn't want to say for that second cutscene at the end of the film, and it wasn't even worth it, so I probably should have just left anyways. But I didn't leave in the middle of the film, so there's that. That's only happened once, I think, ever. But anyways, we're gonna move on unless you guys have anything else to say about Lex.
I don't have anything else.
I mean, the only thing I was gonna say, but this isn't exactly about Lex Luthor, is just something you said, Because this movie makes a lot of assumptions. I mean, it does
Can you say that
explain
again?
things, but so we mentioned the pocket dimension. There are people who are going to be familiar with Superman's lore, and when they see that, if that wasn't explained to them, they may assume that was like the negative zone or something from the comics. And that would have
Okay.
been like, so by explaining it as a pocket dimension, it would have just clarified for fans this is not the negative zone or something like that.
Okay.
So just that's the only
No,
pushback I
no,
was going to
no.
give.
I don't. I don't have a problem with that having a pocket dimension. I have a problem with the fact that the way they conveyed that information wasn't through some sort of label on something or through someone covertly telling someone else about it. It was through a character monologuing it to their enemy to brag about it, in addition to the million other things that they brag to them about. That
And I
was
mean,
my issue with it.
I think
There
to
are way
second,
better ways to convey information than to just tell you.
I think to second your point, right? We as the audience could have learned that it was a pocket dimension just by watching the film with, say, Jimmy Olsen getting information out of his informant, or Lois
Right,
Lane going with
exactly.
Mr. Terrific and him going, he created a pocket dimension. Holy crap.
Exactly.
And then talking, like, telling her why this is a problem. So, yeah, Lex Luthor, I feel like they just wanted to go, oh, look how powerful I am. I've created a pocket dimension.
Literally. Oh man, I made a rift in the universe. Aren't I so cool? Oh crap, I'm pissed. I guess the world is gonna just die.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so let's talk about some of the side characters and then let's get to the end of the film. What are your guys' thoughts on the trio? This, what is it? The Justice Gang. Let's talk about the Justice Gang.
Yeah.
Well, no. Now there's
alright.
4 of them. You forgot. They added
Well,
a
But
new
the
Can't
end of the
believe
movie,
it.
yes, but yeah.
Okay. He's like, you're hired. Yeah. Avalon, what are your thoughts?
I'm gonna. Well, I mean, Hawk Girl of the 3 perhaps has the least amount of development, in my opinion. So, I mean, she just
Yeah,
shows
for
up like,
sure.
oh, it's Hawk Girl. If you know who she is in the comics, great. She does some stuff. She kills a guy at the end, an important character, the president of Baravia.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much it. She doesn't really have a whole lot of depth to her character. Mr. Terrific, he's like the smart individual, but he actually breaks, like, he goes against Guy Gardner's leadership to like help Lois Lane and to help find Superman, and he actually gets actively involved in the plot. So you see that he actually cares a little bit more about doing like investigating this kind of thing and doing what's right. Though he
Sure.
also admitted that he's doing this to kind of piss off Guy Gardner. So I
Right.
mean, he's got a little bit more depth to him. He's a little bit more interesting as a character. Then of course we have Guy Gardner, played by Nathan Fillion, who is perhaps my favorite character in this movie.
Also known as the Green Lantern.
Yes, the Green Lantern. His character, Guy Gardner, the Green Lantern. He's the leader of the Justice Gang. He's kind of an idiot sometimes, but he's also hilarious. So,
Yeah. Andrew, what are your thoughts?
I have mixed feelings about the trio that was used. And I think the reason for this, right, because this movie is meant to be so much more than just a Superman movie. This is essentially James Gunn's test to see if they're going to make a DC universe. And, like, this is their Iron Man, if you will. Their first,
Sure.
the Iron Man 1 in 2008. And he's trying to do something different because Superman's a well-known character, so he's introducing him into a world that already exists. And he picked these 3 characters because he wants to create this idea that the superhero universe within this DC universe, cinematic universe, has already been around for a while. So, of course, there's going to be other heroes around. And it's like this question, right? Whenever you watch another superhero movie, why weren't those superheroes around when this earth-ending event happened? So he throws some other superheroes in there. Right, I guess it's too much to ask for there to be big-name superheroes like Batman or The Flash or Green Lantern. We got one version of Green Lantern. Hawkgirl, right? Avalon pretty much nailed it on the head. We didn't really get much out of her. She was literally just there for some lines of dialogue and as an extra superpowered being to throw into the fray. Um, I kind of felt the same way about Mr. Terrific, to be honest. They just needed a smart superhero who could hack things. And
Sure.
that's why we got Mr. Terrific. It didn't really matter which smart superhero it was. We just wanted someone who could hack things. And cool. I think Guy Gardner was probably the only one that had any semblance of like character development of the three. And was the most interesting. He was also the way that this is a little bit separate. I did see a couple of articles saying this movie was woke, and I saw someone asked about that. I think the illusion as to why this would be woke is that James Gunn essentially gives Israel the middle finger through Guy Gardner at the end of the film. I don't know if that necessarily makes the movie woke. It's funny. It's a very Guy Gardner thing to do. I don't have too many more thoughts on the three of them, though. I don't think they're very well developed. I think Guy Gardner provides some of the best comedic relief of the movie.
Yeah, sure. So
Other than
do you
him,
think,
though,
I
I
mean,
don't know that we needed the other two, I guess.
right. Well, I mean,
Well,
I would say you would
we
actually have a
needed-
greater case for Mr. Terrific.
Yeah, we need Mr. Terrific in the sense that we need to move the plot forward.
Yes. So, do you think that the way they've developed these characters with this grander idea you just presented of the DC universe, do you think they've set up the Justice Gang that they presented in a way that will create a solid launching point for the DCU going forward if James Gunn's experiment succeeds?
And see, I think that's where my question comes out, because right, I think James Gunn likes using characters that are less known, and he wants to capitalize on that because he gets more creative freedom with those characters. Yeah. I don't know that these characters really draw the audience to the DCU uniquely. Like, we're not here to see Hawk Girl or Mr. Terrific or even Green Lantern, really. I think the best case could be made for Guy Gardner, an interesting character that people enjoyed going to see. But it's like DC, we're all here to see characters like Batman, The Flash, Superman, the Wonder Woman, right? Maybe even some little lesser known characters throughout the DC universe. But Hawkgirl and Mr. Terrific aren't those characters we're here to see. It almost felt like he just wanted extra superheroes in this film, so he picked less known ones and threw them in just to go, oh, look, there are other superheroes in this universe that exist.
Okay, sure, but let me play the devil's advocate again. Now, granted, this is coming from some lack of knowledge here, so I might be completely off on this one. But
Which
the
is
idea,
fine.
Sure, but like Guardians of the Galaxy, right, is not as well known as, say, Iron Man or the Incredible Hulk or a lot of those other people they started off the MCU with. And my impression is that James Gunn was very good at taking especially lesser known characters in that group of people and making them popular because he took them and developed them well and made them compelling. And perhaps the idea is that they're going to do the same thing in this new form, right? He's creating a new Guardians gang, if you will, right, with the Justice Gang, and creating this trio of characters, maybe some of them lesser well-known, and then making them compelling so that now you actually want to see Hawkgirl and Mr. Terrific and things like that. So, I mean, is that not a reason enough to try to use these lesser-known characters?
See, and I did think about the Guardians movie, right? I think the difference here is that he took the Guardians of the Galaxy and made them compelling. I don't find these side characters compelling. Like, they are superheroes for the sake of being superheroes. We aren't given a motivation behind Mr. Terrific other than he wants to piss off Green Lantern. We aren't given a motivation behind Hawkgirl, and we aren't given a motivation behind Guy Gardner other than he's a cool superhero who works for the Green Lantern Corps, and this is his Justice Gang, which is the most
Sure.
compelling reason
Well,
we're given in this film.
he does say he's been tasked to protect Earth by the Green Lantern.
Sure,
But
and which is why I say I think you have the most compelling case for Green Lantern in this film. But that's only one of three. So I think... go ahead, sorry.
No, I mean, I actually, what you just said is the reason why I don't particularly enjoy the Justice Gang. Is, frankly, I think they're one-dimensional. You don't have a reason for them being there. And I would make the case that even Guy Gardner is there purely for comedic relief, and because he was told to. That's it. And he doesn't give a crap about Earth. You don't even get the impression that Hawkgirl cares about Earth, or Mr. Terrific gives a crap about Earth. They're all there because they needed to be for the sake of the film, and they wanted to piss each other off or read the news. Because apparently everyone still does that with paper copies. So I don't know that they provided a lot for the film other than a convenient avenue. And you see that because they're all sitting there when Lois comes up to them and says, "Oh my goodness, Superman is in trouble. Come on, guys, let's go save him." And they go, "Nah, get out of here," right? And then at the end of the film, Superman's like, "I got some friends to go and help Palestine." And guess what? It was the Justice Gang. Why did they decide to start helping him all of a sudden? Because it was convenient for the plot. Dun 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 dun. There we go. Get the middle finger, everybody, because that's what we wanted to see. So, you know, like, it was funny. They were entertaining characters, but did they add anything to the plot at all? No. The most interesting thing they did with the entire group, in my opinion, was the fact that Hawkgirl just dropped that guy out of the sky and let him die. That was the thing that went, oh, okay, they're actually willing to kill people? Sick. Was not expecting this. This adds some nuance to the group. But other than that, I didn't give a crap what happened to any of those guys. Well, actually, pretty much anyone in this film, to be honest. But, like, especially those characters.
Yeah.
So, that's what I get. If you want to push back, Avalon, I'm seeing the wheels turn there. Feel free. But those are my thoughts.
I don't know. I personally really liked Guy Gardner in this movie. I really liked his character. So, I mean, not that he's, like, super compelling. And I don't think Mr. Terrific is all that bad as you guys are making him out to be. I think he's got enough development to be, like, serviceable to the plot. And he does provide some needed explanation at certain points. But, and then he also communicates with Superman and everything. So, I mean, but as Andrew said, you could possibly have swapped out another smart character for that. But I don't think that's the problem here. Another smart character. The issue's, like, I guess giving him more of a motivation in the case of the plot. So... But even
I
then,
don't know
it's
why
like,
any of them are there. I literally don't, other than they were told to. And that's my issue. Yeah, I agree with Mr. Terrific. Mr. Terrific, I think, was the most developed. My problem with him is they actually used him for comedic relief, right? They said, this guy's supposed to be here to be funny, and everyone else is like, "Oh my goodness, I'm pouring out my heart to you." And he says, "Don't care, shut up, I'm emotionless, get out of the way," right? And it's supposed to be funny, but I think that actually made it so he didn't have the ability to develop as a character, because anytime anyone wanted to talk about anything important, he's like, "Shut up, I'm trying to do my job." And then he just moves on. So, funny, compelling, nah.
Yeah. I think my biggest question, right, when you're using side characters, to draw out what Maverick said, why are they here? The reason I'm asking the question is, why are we uniquely using this smart character? Why are we using this Green Lantern character? Why are we using Hawkgirl? Right?
Well, and here's the thing, because you don't need side characters to make a compelling story. So you need to justify why they're there to make it more compelling, right? Q Ex Machina. Great film. There's like 3 characters in the entire film. Side characters aren't necessary to tell a good story, so justify them. But keep going.
So there's like this split here. On one hand, I kind of wish they would have just used better known heroes at this point, right? The Justice League in its classic form has all of the needed pieces for this film's side characters, and we don't need a ton of development for them. They have well-established rationale and reasons for why they defend Earth, and you could have easily had those come up through dialogue. On the other hand, okay, they're expensive, this is their first attempt, we're probably not going to get super big, like, really big name heroes. Why are we using the ones that we're using? Why are they here? What do they add to this film? And I don't think that they add much at all. other than the comedic relief.
Mm-hmm.
And then pushing the plot along. Their plot devices.
Sure. Definitely. If you guys don't have more to say on that, I think we should get to Lois Lane, because she is the love interest of this film and is significant to the B plot. Avalon, what are your thoughts on Lois?
Oddly enough, of all the characters in this movie, she's the one I've thought the least about as far as like providing my review. I mean, I didn't find her super compelling. She wasn't bad. I mean, she was like her conflict with Clark Kent and with Superman, like that was an interesting part of the movie, and it added some friction between, like, added some necessary conflict, and that made things a little bit more interesting. But I mean, overall, was she the best Lois Lane we've ever had? I don't know. I think we've had better versions of her in other media. So, I mean,
sure.
That's just my take.
Sure. I don't know what Lois's background is in the DCU, right? But my general impression is that she's more or less the love interest of Superman, and she's a person who tells the news, right? And that's what you get. And then beyond that, the creative differences seem to matter less. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But this whole idea that she's, for example, insecure about relationships and has this tendency to fly away from them, if you will, right? She just doesn't want to commit to it and jumps out. There's a sense in which that, I thought, added an interesting dynamic to the whole film, and it added some interesting conflict as well, right, with Superman and where he's going and how he wants to commit to this, and she goes, I don't know, dude, I think we might need to break up, right? There's things like that that I think added unique tension, and for a B-plot, wasn't half bad. But feel free to push back. I mean, Andrew, what are your thoughts? I don't know what you're thinking, but clearly you have them.
I thought Lois Lane was interesting at the beginning, especially her dialogue with Superman, the interview that they do. I think that was probably, in my opinion, some of the best dialogue we got between the two. That really, really drew out the differences between the characters and also showed where Superman's coming from here. It also set some good groundwork for showing Superman's flaws. He just bodies his way through everything. And then we got no termination of that. I don't know that she's, like, super compelling as the movie progresses, though. She just ends up being the reporter that exposes Lex Luthor and is the driving force behind convincing Mr. Terrific to help save Superman. Other than that, she kind of just stands around, and she acts as a good center point during a fight scene for the camera to pan around for James Gunn to do his little cinematic that was very Guardians of the Galaxy-esque.
Yeah. Yeah,
he had the music playing and everything.
True. Yeah. Let's not try to remember the fact that she produced an article, and then within like 15 minutes, everyone had an interview about the article. But, whatever. I kind of said what I thought in my counter points to what you guys said. I think she's probably one of the stronger characters in this film, but it's also because she is the B plot of this film, her and Superman, and so they develop it a lot. I don't know that it's unique in regards to like a superhero romance story, right? It's pretty, this is what you got. I love the superhero, but I don't know if I can commit to him. He's like head over heels, but then has all these other responsibilities and might die. Who knows? Cue any number of stories that have that type of background to it. But, I mean, it was fine. It was decent. We're not too critical of the romances in this podcast because that's not what this is about. We're talking about the overall stories. Anything else you guys want to add about that? Otherwise, I think we should move on.
I personally like Jimmy Olsen more than her.
Well, that's where I was about to move to. What are your thoughts on him? Jimmy Olsen.
He does the Maverick dance.
Okay.
I wondered if you were going to bring that up.
Do.
Hey, it was a prophecy.
I personally found his interactions with certain people funnier than Guy Gardner's.
Oh, facts. Oh, he was so funny. He was
Oh,
like the
yeah.
most entertaining part of the film, I thought. With
Yeah.
Eve,
Yeah.
it was hilarious. This girlfriend of Lex Luthor that's just trying to get him back, and he's doesn't want it, but he wants the information she can provide.
I will
Such a
also
great
say
comedic field
it
to
was the
just
one
plow through.
it was the one part of the movie where I wasn't sure what was going to happen because they didn't tell me. Like they just
True.
they
Oh wow.
showed it.
Oh my gosh.
Because when he goes, I have this informant, I was like, who the heck is gonna be his informant? And then I saw the text message on his phone. I was like, oh shoot, what is this?
Yes, it was very good. Yeah, I would agree. Jimmy Olsen's probably one of my favorite characters in this film, even though he's such a side character for sure. But every time he shows up on the screen, you could just tell that it's going to be great. Whatever is going to happen, it's going to be amazing. So, I mean, that being said, he doesn't add a lot to the film other than revealing Lex Luthor's plot via this ex-girlfriend that he had. So,
Yeah.
only so much he can add, but as a side character, I thought he did well.
Yep.
You guys want to hear my favorite side character?
Who?
My favorite side character. The character that I thought had the most development and the least revelations in the entire film, that didn't explain everything to you every time they showed up on screen,
If it's the dog.
was Crypto.
What the?
The dog was so good. He was the best part of the film, and that's so sad because he couldn't say anything because he's a dog. But he didn't explain everything to me as it was happening. He simply showed up and licked people's faces and then threw things around and ate robots. And that's what I was here for. I was like, you know what? The dog's great. Everything else, I don't know. But the dog, I'll take it. I don't know if you guys have anything else to say on Crypto, but Crypto's pretty amazing.
What can you say about Crypto aside from what you just said? I don't know. I mean,
Okay, well then, I guess that will be that on the side characters. Let's finish up this thought
do you want to
process,
talk
okay?
about the shape-shifting alien?
Sure, we can talk about him. Did you have particular thoughts on Metamorpho?
He was interesting. I thought he was Martian Manhunter, but by the end of the movie, I'm not so sure anymore.
Oh, interesting. Well, no, he's an
So-
actual... Apparently he's an actual character, because I looked him up afterwards.
Yeah. So
he's legit.
yeah. So I mean, he was interesting, and he provides, and he's both the means by which Superman is tortured, and also the means by which Superman escapes because he has to change of heart. Though the whole scene where he has to change of heart, I wasn't sure if anyone else was a little bit like annoyed by that scene a little bit. It just seemed to drag out a little. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I
Yeah.
mean, as a character overall, he was, I mean, he was okay. He just wasn't great, and I questioned his change of heart a little bit. Like, why were you helping him to begin with then? So what like?
Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't hate his transformation because he realized that they were all... Everyone knew if you were in Lex Luthor's box, you were screwed. Like, there was nothing you were going to do. And so the idea that, oh, maybe he could actually get out if he helped Superman to revive made some sense. It wasn't clear why he was helping them at the end. So once again, he felt like a tool in the entire story. But I thought he was... Of all the characters, he actually had some motive for what he was doing because he wanted to save his freaking little kid. And
Yeah.
at least he had that, you know? So, I don't know. He was okay.
Yeah. No, I just saw his change of heart scene. And like, wait, you didn't know he was gonna kill people before this? Like Lex Luthor.
Oh, yeah, true.
That scene was just like the reaction out of him was just like, hang on, like you've been here, a prisoner of Lex Luthor already. Like, what did you expect?
Right.
Like,
Well,
this is
exactly.
shocking to you now.
Not that this character is a deal breaker for me, but I do think when you're like looking into the psyche of this guy, okay? His son has been kidnapped. He's probably not witnessed someone get shot in the head right in front of him. So the violence that he knows exists he isn't being confronted with it like in that closer
Sure.
proximity. On top of this, he never had a means of escape in the form of Superman. So he didn't really have a way of fighting back. one, and then two, it's very easy for people to blind themselves to violence when it comes to self-preservation or the preservation of, say, a child. And you can see this in so many different historical accounts. I think probably, to be quite frank, Auschwitz is probably a great example where there were Jews who were held and literally just worked disposing of other bodies for the sake of protecting
Sure.
their own families.
Right. Yeah, the more or less just blindness that comes from a situation like that definitely makes some level of sense. I mean, yeah, I didn't have a problem with his escape per se. I see what you're saying. Um, it's also just unclear, like, what he was exposed to being that sort of character. Like, does he come from a whole planet of people who can change form or not? And, like, what is their environment like? You're not going to get into that in this type of film. So, once again, I didn't have a big problem with him because he's in the scenes of this film a total of 5 minutes, but he was okay for what he was worth, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But let's talk about that ending. I mean, we've talked about a lot of the spoilers, so if it hasn't been spoiled for you yet, I don't know what to say, but we're going to get into all of them at this point. What are your guys' thoughts on how the story comes to completion, right? You have Lex Luthor, he's in his little ship, and he's going around, he's like, screw the whole Earth, as he tears this rift into the Earth, and it just starts consuming things. And he has the clone of Superman trying to beat him up, and then they beat up the clone, and then he comes to fight Lex Luthor and gives him a crap beating. Actually, the dog gives him a crap beating, too. What are your thoughts on the ending of this film? Let's start with Andrew this time.
Superhero fight. Wow, didn't see that coming. It's like going to In-N-Out and ordering a cheeseburger and going, cool. I totally didn't expect that.
Yeah. Go ahead, Avalon. I'll let you go before I respond to that, because...
I mean, when you talk about the ending, are you just including the end with Lex Luthor, or are you talking about the fight with Ultraman?
I'm including the fight with Ultraman, yeah. I mean, that's supposed to be this big revelation, too. Like,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, Ultraman is actually just a clone? What on earth?
Well, I mean, the reality is,
Crazy.
I'm not a huge fan of DC, but I knew enough to know that Ultraman is at least a version of Superman from an alternate universe. So when they said his name was Ultraman, there was a part of me that was like, okay, well, this is probably another form of Superman from somewhere, from either another universe or clone or something like that. So I wasn't surprised when they lifted his hood off, his mask off at one part in the movie, and it's essentially Superman. And it's like, okay, well, we knew this, and it made sense with everything else that happened before.
Sure.
So, I mean, the whole reveal of Ultraman was kind of for me. The fight was okay. I mean, it's like, once they take away the drones, like, he easily beats Ultraman, sends him into the black hole.
Right.
I think my biggest problem with the finale is when he crashes into Lex Luthor's spaceship in his, like, his flying ship, and he confronts Lex Luthor, because it almost felt like a preaching moment, where it's like, we're now going to tell you what the meaning of our story is right here, right now. And then, like, he just, like, goes on, like, I am human because of this and that, and, like, has this talk down with him. And it just is like, this is why some people give Christian movies flack, because of preaching the message. It's like, like, now it's seeing this in a superhero movie. Okay.
Let me just tell you what this story is about. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, I take issue with that scene, that part of it. Other than that, that's my take on the ending. Like,
yeah, and from being not familiar with the comics, right, and not knowing who Ultraman was, I was somewhat surprised by it, so I gave it some points in regards to the 9-point system, right, where we used to review movies. But it wasn't full, and that goes back to the idea that you have this revelation. Oh my goodness, this is not just another fighter, this is actually a clone of Superman. He has all the same powers, all the same abilities. You know that. So what? How does that materially change how you are doing anything? And the answer is, it doesn't. They don't change how they do anything. He continues to fight him as he would previously, and ends up just simply winning because his dog shows up. So that's, and we talk about this as in other films, right? Cue Dune, cue the other films that have this revelation that is interesting. It provides some background for us as the audience that sheds some interesting light on previous events, but it doesn't actually materially change anything going forward. And that's really where I think the rubber hits the road with this one. Is it? I just don't really care if we didn't know that he was a clone of Superman. It would mean nothing, right? It would turn out the same way. So yeah, that's on that. In regards to the ending, 100% is preachy, and I just didn't really care. And as much as I love Crypto, him throwing Lex Luthor around was funny, but I didn't actually think it was positive for the outcome of the film, other than just showing the main character being beat up. This was the DC equivalent of having Loki being smashed back and forth by Hulk. So, and frankly, don't love Marvel nowadays, but Marvel did it better, so...
Oh, I was just gonna say, the Ultraman thing, I think... I mean, I feel like it was pretty obvious as soon as Lex Luthor is able to get into the Fortress of Solitude, and then Superman continually says, you need my DNA to get in there, to go, okay, well, he has some form of clone, and then the fact that Ultraman is literally able to go toe-to-toe with Superman. By the time it's revealed, it's like, okay, cool, and then like you said, we don't really care. It doesn't add to the film at all. It doesn't cause Superman to question anything. He just goes, all right, throwing him in the black hole.
Yeah. No, I didn't actually pick up that it was him, but it was very clear that he had some form of the DNA. So, for sure.
Yeah. It was very obvious to me as this movie progressed, and they continually refused to show Ultraman's face. They just, like, they're so obviously hiding his identity for a reason, especially in a film that's telling you everything that's going on, and this is the one thing they will say nothing about.
That's so funny that I didn't catch that, of all things. I mean, it didn't mean anything at the end of the day, but, like, I guess maybe I'm just so used to the ring wraiths, and I love the idea of just a villain that you don't reveal, that has this mysterious aura about them continually. I like that, so I wish someone would actually do that continually since Lord of the Rings, but we haven't really seen it, so maybe I will not. But,
What do you mean? We have the boys,
I guess I was hoping.
And there's, what is it? Black Noir?
Yeah, but he died, so, so much for that.
Well,
also, he's kind of a joke in comparison to
the ring wraiths?
Homelander. Well, and the ring wraiths, too. But, like, it's just he's not the formidable force that the ring wraiths are. They're just, like, unbeatable, undead, and you never see their face. They're scary. So, I like that. I should see more of that. Do I see more of that? I do not see more of that. So I'm sad. But we're going to we're going to move on. Let's talk about the lasting impact. Do you think this film is going to have a lasting impact? Andrew, what are your thoughts?
I don't know. Because I think when I watched this movie, there were so many times when I went, this is such a James Gunn movie. There are so many things in here that are just like, he just copy and pasted from Guardians of the Galaxy. You have the way that the fight scenes are shot. You have the music that's used. You have the humor that they use in this film. You even have the Superman suit, which has the same funky looking lines on it as the Guardians of the Galaxy uniforms in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And I think I like the first Guardians of the Galaxy. I think James Gunn can make more lighthearted superhero films and do them well. Do I think he did this one very particularly well? I don't know if it was amazing. My biggest concern becomes, if this movie does have a bigger impact, is James Gunn going to start directing other superhero films like Batman, like Wonder Woman, like maybe even a Nightwing movie? These characters are very much not the same lighthearted, altruistic good guy characters that we see with Superman. These characters have a much darker side. They have a much darker past. They have much more questionable ethics when it comes to how they treat villains. Sure, Batman has a no-kill rule. He will still torture the crap out of someone. And so, is James Gunn going to be able to do a Batman movie well, like we saw with, say, Christopher Nolan's Batman movies, or even Robert Pattinson playing Batman
Right.
in the most recent iteration? So, I have other thoughts. I just want to see if you guys have something to
Sure.
push back or add to
Well,
that before I go on.
no, and what we've seen even with the previous iteration of James Gunn being part of the DC universe is with the Suicide Squad, right? And that was once again a comedic piece where you see them playing off of these characters that are very funny and more playing back to that Guardians of the Galaxy esque vibe that you got, right? And so the fact that he leaned into that again with this film, looking at it retroactively, is not surprising. The question then becomes is James Gunn a one-trick pony, right? Does he only do funny superhero films? And if he only does funny superhero films, that's just not going to work for Batman. Like, that's not Batman's character. It's not how he should be portrayed. And if you do that, you're going to ruin his character. So, yeah, I think that there is a valid concern there that if they go in that direction continually, it's going to actually ruin the DCU rather than save it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have further thoughts, Avalon.
Not really. Yeah, I mean, each character, like, you can't give the same tone and feel to every single character inside of the universe. I mean, even Marvel didn't do that in their first phase. They gave each character their own distinctive tone with their standalone movies. So, I mean, you can't really, like, James Gunn better, like, give Batman the dark, brooding aspect that he's known for. Otherwise, it's going to ruin his story. It's not going to be what
Right.
fans expect.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
though honestly,
I will-
they should just keep Robert Pattinson as the Batman for the DCU.
I will say I did see in an article. It sounds like James Gunn wants to have different actors putting their own twist on certain superheroes. I hope that's the way that it goes, because I really don't think James Gunn can make a good Batman film. Even though he hasn't made one yet, so I can't say definitively, but looking at all the superhero films that he has made, they all have a very similar vibe to them, right? You've got the Suicide Squad, Guardians of the Galaxy, now you have Superman. There's a lot of comedy within these films, and it's very lighthearted. Even with the Suicide Squad, it's very dark, the things you're dealing with, right? They literally just kill tons of people, but everything's a
Right.
joke. And so
Right.
Batman, nothing's a joke. So I don't know if he'll be able to survive a film without having his main character crack jokes half the time. So I really do hope he gives that to someone else who has proven that they can make a darker film.
Right. Yep. Cool. Well, as a parting thought, this is the Superman of the new DCU, right? We've had many iterations of Superman in the past. What are you guys' thoughts on this Superman comparing to those previous iterations? And Andrew, if you want to go ahead first, feel free.
I'm looking up when Man of Steel came out, 2013. So we are, 12 years away right now?
Mm-hmm.
I think this film, this iteration of Superman, is going to be a lot of people's favorites right now just because of the recency of it. I do not think that this version of Superman will stand the test of time like other versions have, other than living on through the DC universe, however long this may last. I don't think he has the same unique traits about him that made other versions more popular. Like you have, the Christopher Reeves Superman. I think that's probably one of the best versions of the classical Superman that we have, if not the best version. I still like Man of Steel, Henry Cavill's Superman, better than this version of Superman. And that's not to say, I know the stereotype right now is, there are Henry Cavill acolytes who only want him and hate that he was replaced. I don't know that it was a bad thing that he's replaced. I think that David Cornsweet looks the part of Superman to a T. I think he even has the vibe that you're going for with a classic Superman to a T. I do not think that his launching his first movie had what Man of Steel had in terms of the character that they developed and created. I do think one of the biggest qualms that people have with Man of Steel, right, is that it's a very dark movie, and Superman's not a dark character. I appreciate the twist. I don't have a problem with you putting small twists on characters or changing the tone of certain characters if it's done for a reason. And with Man of Steel, they had so many reasons why Superman was the way he was, and they really leaned into his background and his parents'
Sure.
lineage as a character.
Right.
I think also, right, one of the reasons we find Henry Cavill's Superman so dark is because the Batman he's put up against is not dark at all. We're not given a dark, brooding Bruce Wayne. We're given a Ben Affleck
Sure.
Bruce Wayne who's built and just cries his way through everything. So, I think there are a lot of different reasons why Superman is portrayed as more dark. I still liked this iteration of Superman. Right? It's a comic book universe. There are arguably infinite versions of every superhero, and so you can put twists on them. I think as long as you have a reason for doing so, I have no problem with it. All that to say, I don't know that this Superman compares to other versions of live-action Superman like Christopher Reeves or Henry Cavill.
Sure. Cool. Avalon.
Sorry, I got distracted because I had a thought. I guess James Gunn has kind of done a dark movie, though I haven't seen it. It's actually a dark superhero movie called Brightburn, which is kind of a horror parody of Superman. I mean, it's not.
Oh, that's interesting.
So he's a producer listed on
Next
it. So
podcast? Question mark.
I don't know. So I haven't seen it.
That's in
but
2019. That's actually pretty recent.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Oh, I actually saw commercials for this. You're right. I was very curious to watch this when this came out, but I wasn't running a podcast at that point, so I didn't have a reason to. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. I'm not going to put that on the docket for now, but what are your thoughts on this Superman compared to the other Supermans that have come out previously?
Okay, compared to the other Supermans. Well, I haven't seen, like, of the Superman movies I've seen, I would say this one ranks up there as, I mean, not being a huge diehard Superman fan. Like, it ranks up there with Man of Steel, but I'm not sure if I'd rank it higher or lower than Man of Steel. So,
Okay.
I mean, because I really did appreciate how this movie handled Superman being this almost unstoppable force, where, like, he's constantly being, like, how Lex Luthor was manipulating him throughout this movie. I appreciated that. As a storyteller, I was like, that's good. Like, that's something I like seeing.
Sure.
So, and you don't see that very often, especially with an unstoppable character. Especially, like, we just reviewed Incredible Hulk recently, and you didn't see that at all in Incredible Hulk. So, like, that is, like, the kind of thing I would have liked to have seen in Incredible Hulk, but we saw it in this one. So, now with that being said, I appreciated the Krypton, like, backstory in Man of Steel a lot. Like, it was one of those things that made it stand apart, and I really liked that part of the movie. And there's like things in Man of Steel that I just personally really enjoy. So, but at the same time, this movie handled something so much better and actually captured the essence of who Superman is supposed to be, the symbol of hope, much better than some, like, Man of Steel did. So it's like, well, which one's better? I don't know, because there are things I liked about each one.
Right.
But as far as
Sure,
the
and
test
that's-
of time, I don't know that this movie's going to stand the test of time. I think this is, like, I enjoyed it, sure. But am I going to, like, think about this movie years from now? I don't know. I don't know if it has that kind of meaning to it.
Right, and that maybe reflects more on the cycle of superhero films, right? The idea that we've had so many iterations of Batman, so many iterations of Superman, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Is this just going to be a never-ending cycle, or we just get another Superman in 20 years, and it's a new actor with his new take on it? Like, I don't know. Maybe. And that might speak to the strengths or the weaknesses of this actor specifically and portraying this character, but I don't know that it speaks positively to the lasting impact of this film specifically. The fact that we are getting this is, you know, the third version of Superman that we've had listed on just this podcast, right? Not even going into a detailed description of the many different iterations we've seen of him. So it's what you got. It's interesting to see where James Gunn has taken it, right? And it will be interesting to continue to see, will they progress with the DC universe underneath James Gunn? Are we going to get the same feel with James Gunn's universe based off of what we've seen, or are we going to get something different than what we've seen with Guardians of the Galaxy and this film, and everything that we've seen so far that has come out of James Gunn's mind? I don't know, but it's a place to pause, a place to reflect, and I think it will be interesting to see what he does going forward. So that's what you got. That's the pod. And we hope you all enjoyed, because we will be back, as we always are, next week. We'll see you all then.